Hi everybody, welcome to my channel and another art journal tutorial. This one's called Create Joy, and there is a close-up of it. I'm absolutely loving how this turned out. So this is part of my color scheme challenge series, and here are the colors: Naples yellow, quinacridone magenta, and Mars black, and of course added white. So I'm working on a altered recipe file that I found at the thrift store. And I'll put a link to the other videos where I repurpose the whole binder and I show you how I did it and what I look for when I'm looking for an altered book. Now the paper is really smooth and I am loving putting it on with the makeup sponge. I'm putting wet on wet because I want to get that blend. Because when you mix the Naples yellow and the quinacridone magenta, you get that lovely coral color. So I wanted to get that third color by mixing my paints. And again, this comes on so perfectly smooth. The paper's smooth, and it's just a quick, easy way to get the paint down there. Now, I kind of removed some because I wanted a little more of that yellow just peeking through to have some contrast and interest on the page. Letting it dry and getting a little bit more of the Naples yellow because I got a little too mixy. So this is the Crafter's Workshop Happy Dandelion, and I'm putting the quinacridone magenta and I'm stenciling on it. Links to this and any of the stamps and other stencils that I use are in the description box below, and you can check them out because these are fast favorites. So I'm just putting different ones of these dandelion, which aren't dandelions to me, um, on the background of the page. I love the motif of this flower, the curl. Carmen Medlin just knocks it out of the park. This is another Carmen Medlin stencil with the Crafter's Workshop called Maidenhair Fern. And again, I love this one and I reach for it often. I like it's a 12 by 12 stencil, both of these were, but I'm using little bits of it. And here I'm stenciling on with white because I want that contrast. So white and black are the contrast colors. This one's going to be more in the background, the white. The black is going to be able to kind of take more of a center stage with the bold black contrast that I create later on. So again, I'm putting it on. It's fluffy, it's feathery, it's all sorts of yumminess. And I'm absolutely loving the background. And I'll admit, this one, I'm actually testing out the paper to see how it's standing up to what I do with it in mixed media in my art journal. And I loved it. So there's a close-up of it because I didn't stop long enough to take an actual picture to save. Now this mandala is scallop mandala, and it's another favorite. Now I was going to trace around it and I thought about putting white on, but I thought, you know what I'm going to do with the black. I was unsure because I've had those go bad for me for a couple times. So I take a sneak peek and you know what? Commit to it. It's only paper, right? At this point, going in, I was testing out the paper. That was my job. And I was just having fun. I just grabbed whatever colors hit me, and this page evolved. And sometimes you don't have to know exactly where you're going to get started. Start, make one decision. I pick the color. 2, pick the pattern and the stenciling. 3, now I'm going to deal with the focal point and or the sentiment. Solve the problems as you go. So I'm using a makeup sponge to apply the black acrylic paint through this stencil. And I always love the moment when you pull off the stencil and you see what you've created. So I'm looking at that and I'm going, okay, it's all right. I love the stencils. I love every component of this, but it's not perhaps cohesive at this point in time. So I'm looking at it from this angle, from that angle. I take pictures of it just to see get a different perspective. I'm looking in my camera. Now, because I have the black in there, I need to add more black. So I'm going to edge this in black because you want everything to work together. So while I've already edged it with the Quin Magenta, I am now edging it with the black to get a little bit more of that in there because the black is so predominant in this focal point. So now I wanted to add a little more black to the background. So I grabbed this stamp and it's crackle texture, and I believe it's a Prima stamp. This one is a Carabel Studios text and circles, and I bought this because I loved it, but I've rarely used it. But oh my goodness, I love it. There's so many little components on it that are just the right scale. I'm adding that little bit of black into it. And in a minute, I'm going to show you close-ups of this because it is to die for. So this this is not the last time you're going to see me using this text and circle stamp from Carabel Studios. So you can see a little bit there. And I do have a still picture of the finished project, so you're going to get a sneak peek. And there you can see there's some stars, there's some circles, there's some text, there's some print text, there's script text. So much is in that stamp. Loving it. So back to this, I'm thinking, okay, now I need to tie in the white. So I grab my Sakura Jelly Roll white, and this is 10. And this, surprise, surprise, when it's completely dry, like overnight, it's pretty permanent, which I love. Because if you are going to varnish something, if it was a canvas, it will not reactivate. So I love that. So I am just, and there's a close-up of the 10. It's very broad. It goes on super, super easy. I'm not being overly precise. I'm not going quite as fast as this video is showing you, but I was going, I wasn't going to be exact. And when I started, I wasn't sure I was going to do all the elements either. I ended up doing all of them. And I like how the white, the black contrast, everything's starting to work together a little bit more. So it's those little details. So I hadn't stenciled this little loop-de-loop at the top at the beginning. I wasn't sure I needed it, but I thought, something's missing here. I think I need this. So I put the stencil back on carefully, and I am very carefully trying to just get that loop-de-loop part to show. It just somehow finishes it off. It just looked incomplete. So I gave that a dry and I outlined it in white as well. So then I grabbed my alphabet stamps. These were ones that I bought at Michael's, I believe. And I'll put a link to, I don't know if I can find this exact set, but a similar set, if I can find it, in the description box. And I'm stamping into acrylic paint on the side and pressing it on. I have these alphabet stamps and I don't use them, but I'm really liking the effect. And after I stamp with the acrylic, I'm wiping it off on a baby wipe to get the acrylic paint off of my stamp. And I've given up the expectation that this is going to be perfectly straight, this is going to be perfectly neat. And again, the more I stamp with it, the better I'm going to get. So I'm just stamping the words create joy. And at this time, that was going to be the end. And had I used bigger letters here, that may have filled up the space. But that corner was kind of empty, so it was bothering me. Now, some of these letters didn't get a perfect stamp, so I've got some thinned black acrylic paint and I'm just touching up a little bit. I still want it to look grunge and not precise and pristine, but I do want it to be dark enough to really, be able to read the words off of that busy background. So I'm looking at it. I splatter with black paint just to, again, that kind of makes the whole page work together. But I'm looking at that corner and I'm thinking, what can I put in there? And I kind of want it to go both ways. I want it to go up and down and side to side. So I had some of these dragonflies that I had stamped out for my favorite stamp video. And I kind of put that there and I'm thinking, okay, that would work, except the mandala wasn't quite centered there and I didn't like how that was off. And then I flipped it this way and I thought, okay, that works. But this was the next day. I slept on it. Don't be afraid to set something aside and come back to it. So I'm doing the different setups with the different dragonflies in different positions and taking pictures of it. And that allows me to just scroll through that, look at it, and get a different look. Now, I like the idea of keeping the dragonfly white, but it's kind of an unfinished paper, and I think it's just sketch paper even. It's not even a particularly nice paper because it really was scrap. And I'm just painting this shimmery goodness, which gives it a pearlized, iridescent look on top, just like a dragonfly would. But I want to keep it white. And I think with the background and everything else, it's going to go. So after a quick cleanup, I'm ready to get that out my phone, see where I had this and I liked it, and just glue that down. Which way do you like it? Do you like it horizontal or you like it vertical? I think this page can actually go both ways. Here's my matte medium from Liquitex, and I'm just putting that down. Now, sometimes if you put matte medium on top of something that's iridescent or metallic, you lose some of the shimmer, so you might want to paint it a little bit on top, back with the shimmery goodness or your metallic paint if that's what you're using. Now, I didn't edge this dragonfly beforehand, and I just wanted to make it stand out a little bit, so I'm coming in with my charcoal pencil and just adding just a little bit of darkness, a little bit of outline, a little bit of shading, just to make this stand out a little bit more. I didn't want to get it too super grungy. So I'm using a harder charcoal pencil. This is the medium, not the extra soft. If I'm using the extra soft, I get really it breaks down really easily. This is giving me a more solid line, which is the effect that I want here. Just kind of making it a little darker there. And adding a few faint lines. Because again, this wasn't a particularly great stamp. It was quite honestly a disposable stamp thing that was still sitting on my desk that I decided to use. I just want a little bit more grunge here for some reason. And then I believe I go around the edges to get maybe a little bit of a softer black edge. A little bit more coming in, and it just works. So all these little details, when I thought I was almost done, But I absolutely love how this all came together, starting really with two colors and black and white. I sprayed it with Spectrafix because of the charcoal. Spectrafix is a um, more safe product. I can't use any of those sprays inside my house. So here are some close-ups of it. I absolutely love how this all came together. Love the contrast of the black, white, and the two colors that I used. Definitely will be doing more. Thank you for joining me. Give me a like, leave me a comment. Bye for now.